Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Go Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Go Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Go Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience.
Is it done? Is it sorted? Okay, all right.
Clean water, or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the IC covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
All right, so good evening and welcome to IOPort here on Metropolitan Television. IOPort is brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil Company Limited, Serene Insurance, and Ghana Link Network Services, the operators of the Integrated Customs Management System. The show is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. We're streaming live on our social media handles. On Facebook, you can watch us live at Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, GPHA. Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, GPHA. You can still watch us on Facebook at Port of Tema. Port of Tema. On YouTube, we are streaming live at IONPort Ghana. IONPort Ghana. We shall be getting interactive with you, and so you can send us your comments ahead via WhatsApp line, which is 0559-019-177. 0559-019-177. Indeed, our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. If you want to have a grasp of all that transpired here on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show. At the appropriate time, when I pick the signals, I shall be activating the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to tonight's discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona, and tonight we will bring you straight away our local stories, and would have cause to remind ourselves that in the course of the week, the International Women's Day was celebrated, International Women's Day, and women in the shipping industry were not left out, and so we had the Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, WISTA Ghana, commemorating the day in the Western Regional Capital of Takoradi. Plus the fact that some women, we were highlighting some women who have contributed tremendously to the growth of Ghana's ports this evening, plus the fact that IMA also marked Glaucoma Week. That's International Maritime Hospital. So let's take a look at these stories. We'll be back shortly.
Ghana's biggest commercial port, the Port of Tema, has over the years blazed a trail for women participation in the maritime industry, one that is often regarded as a preserve for men. The port has recently seen women entrusted with various leadership roles at the port, spanning operational and administrative, among others. Ghana's busiest port has for the first time a female director, Sandra Opoku, who runs the day-to-day activities of the port. In light of the recently celebrated International Women's Day, we would hear how these women have achieved success in their fields of work.
Jubilee is known to be the end for all containerized cargo. With every vehicle that is in container needs to come through Jubilee, both import and transit. And so for smooth transaction in terms of clearance, my job to ensure that clients do not go through so much to clear their cargo. Aside that, before Jubilee, I was in charge of Terminal 1. That is where the vessel operation is, and so I've gained a lot of experience. I was in charge of the container depot, and with the little of dealing with people, even with fishing harbour when I was the operations manager through and through, has been a sort of a guide as well for me to be able to know the essence of team play or dealing with people or managing people to get to where we are today.
For me, I'm a go-getter. When I have a task to perform, I go for it. And I'm guided by the fact that everything that we do will be accountable to it. Because port operations is a demanding area. I mean, it's a 24/7 job. And so for us, for me, for instance, you come to work and then you close in the night, because we do, for transit, we do about 85–86% of our deliveries on stuffing. And so what that means is that in the night, we work.
These gallant women have overcome stereotypes, battled the odds, and have on merit risen through the ranks at the very pinnacle of success in this male-dominated industry.
It is about commitment to duty.
Okay.
My commitment to duty, and the end where you need to know that you cannot do it all alone.
Right.
You need the match-up of other people to do that.
I was telling somebody that our kind of job, you get to see results instantly. And so at the end of the day, you know if you achieved or not. Our job is time-bound, and we've had so many instances, if I can cite some of them. I remember years back, we encountered a center, I think it's a dialysis center, and then they wanted to take delivery of a container. And then at the point, you know, they mentioned to us that they were waiting for the container because people's lives depended on it. Such an instance, you serve them on time, and then you see that you have saved a soul.
Today, because of the strides of these professional women, aspiring young women have models to emulate to achieve success and bridge the glaring gender gap in this industry.
I remember when I joined GPHA some 24 years ago. I think we had just one person, one woman in charge of, I think she was in charge of personnel also. Yeah, then later within a year or two, some other, like Mrs. Toko, late, may her soul rest in perfect peace, Mrs. Tokono and co joined. So it is true that it is widened and there's more room for improvement. And so my advice to the young ones is that they should pursue excellence, and success is guaranteed.
Whatever you put your mind to, it is achievable. Things may not look bright now. You may think that maybe you do not have anybody taking you to school. Maybe take it from me. When I started work, I was not a graduate, but in the course of work, I take advantage of weekend schools, take advantage of evening schools. and then improve upon yourself. And the little that is assigned to you, you work it well.
The director of the Port of Tema, Sandro Poku, has encouraged women in the maritime and shipping industry to take part in the IMO CEO Leadership Program, which is focused on equipping women with leadership skills and confidence to enable them participate in decision-making in the industry. This, according to her, is a way of encouraging gender equality in the maritime industry for a sustainable tomorrow. Speaking at the celebration of the International Women's Day organized by Women's International Shipping and Trading Association Ghana in the Western region, she indicated that having women in positions of authority is crucial, but that must not come on the back of seafaring experience, education, and training.
Women, I encourage you that you have to take your own place at the table. Do not expect to have the red carpet rolled out for you just because you are a woman. You have to prepare yourself, and then when the opportunity comes, you take your place.
She said it is imperative that women's role in maritime activities are advanced by ensuring there are opportunities for them to be educated and gain experience in maritime activities.
Efforts to ensure safety and support for female seafarers and infrastructure changes that will ensure women's physical security on board ships are also needed. Most of the time when you go on the vessels, it's only just one woman when you have more than 20 crew members.
President of Western Ghana, Jamila Jaula Mahama, acknowledged that in order to harness gender fairness in the nation's maritime trade, women have to be allowed to play energetic and significant roles.
Women who go to sea must gain multi-level and multi-sector experience, such as executive and engineering positions, rather than being limited to entry or low-paid occupations. Women can do it. We have us all over the place.
She expressed joy over the rise in the number of women receiving education and training required for careers such as marine piloting, which entails steering ships into ports and harbors. The Western Regional Minister, Kwabnotri Dakomensa, said it is imperative for Ghana to adopt measures that will promote greater women participation in Ghana's maritime domain by stifling all forms of discrimination and traits of inequality to enable women attain high positions within the corporate ladder of the maritime industry.
There is ample evidence based on numerous studies that investing in women is the most effective way to lift communities, companies, and even countries. Countries with more gender equality have better economic outcomes and impact.
Over the past week, the world marked the World Glaucoma Week to create awareness and mobilize efforts towards the elimination of blindness caused by the disease. Here in Ghana, the International Maritime Hospital in Tema has participated in the glaucoma awareness efforts with an intensive sensitization campaign at the hospital, the community level, and via electronic media. On Thursday, March 10, the hospital held a semi-virtual forum to educate health practitioners and the general public on the dangers of glaucoma and how to put an end to it. The CEO of the International Maritime Hospital, Dr. Akwesi Champong, said, with Ghana recording some of the highest numbers of glaucoma cases, the main objective is to encourage regular testing.
You have only one eye. I mean, what good is it if you can spend all your money to buy loads of stuff and you can't see them? So as much as it might be expensive, it's very cheaper for you to get your eyes checked. Not only your eyes. I mean, you can check your heart, you can check your blood pressure, you can check your diabetes. We need to take care of ourselves. I mean, you can't put price on human life. You can't put price on diseases that we can prevent. Because if you don't prevent it and you get ill, that is more costly.
Resident optometrist at IMA, Dr. Isaac Esrifi, revealed the causes and risk factors of glaucoma.
Now, some of the things or risk factors that can also be considered is age. As we are aging, it causes glaucoma. Conditions such as infections, uveitis, cataracts, they all can cause glaucoma. And now, a major thing that is of public concern is hypertension and diabetes, which can also lead to glaucoma because they are microvascular conditions which affect small blood vessels. And wherever small blood vessels are, it's going to affect the tissues that it supplies nutrients.
He emphasized that irreversible blindness is a reality when it comes to glaucoma and should not be considered as an option.
We all know you do self-tests. When you wake up in the morning, you can do the test yourself, whereby you cover one eye to observe how the other eye sees. And then you can also as well cover the other eye and observe how the other eye also sees. When you do this and there is a little changes in your vision, if there is any blurry vision, you're going to easily pick it up and then report to the eye clinic for further examination.
All right, so you're welcome back. Those were some happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We are now zooming to our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we have two topics. The first topic is we're going to assess the contribution of women to Ghana's maritime industry. This topic was selected on the back of the International Women's Day, which was celebrated on the 8th of this month. That was last week. And so tonight we'll be assessing the contribution of women to the shipping industry in our country. And topic number 2 has to do with the war in Ukraine and Russia. Indeed, we want to assess the impact of this particular war on the global supply chain. And so these are the two topics we're treating tonight, and we have no less a person to help us digest the issues but our own Dr. Emmanuel Kofi Mbia. Good evening, Doc. We're happy to have you. This is your first time here this year. So a happy new year is in order. Please, his microphone is on. Yeah, your microphone is on. It's on already, yeah. His microphone is on. Are we good? Okay, so they're trying to, I think we'll go for a very quick break, and then when we return, we'll continue. We want to see whether we can get Doc's mic functioning. But like I said tonight, okay, I think, Doc, can you?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to welcome you and say this is your first time this year, and so Happy New Year. It's not, you know.
Yes. Yeah, we are in March, but it's still
in order.
It's still
yes,
a new year. It's in order.
Absolutely.
This is the first time I'm coming here to the studio.
Year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fine.
Yes.
Good.
All right. So let's go straight to our first topic, and we selected you because I've known you for a very long time now when you were CEO of Ghana Shippers Authority. And by the way, Dr. Emmanuel Kofi Mbia is a maritime law consultant and private legal practitioner at Alliance Partners. He is also the immediate past Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority. And I know that whilst you were there, you had several women, at management level with you. I can mention Madame Sylvia Sanau, who was one of the managers. I can mention Madame Joyce Mokhtari, who was in charge of legal, head of legal. I can mention Madame Nadine Swaite, who was in charge of shipper services. I can also mention Madame Monica Josiah, who was in charge of the Takrady Shipper Center. And these were part of your management.
Yes.
And Madame Sylvia Sanau, who rose to become deputy CEO under you. And so I know you have worked with these women at the top level. And so you can better give us an assessment of what your thoughts are as far as their participation and their contribution to the growth of that particular, authority that you headed and the industry in general. I think that you can give us a perspective, a sense of what it feels like to have such women work and what their contribution has been.
Yes, thank you very much. I think before I even come to their contribution in terms of what they have done, not only for Ghana Shippers Authority, but also for the industry and also other ladies. I need to also mention that myself, at the International Maritime Organization, I found a lot of inspiration from two women who I always like to mention, Dr. Rosalie Balkin and then Mrs. Monica Mbanefu. Okay. They had faith in me, and at the time when it mattered most, they encouraged me and then made sure that they supported me every inch of the way, So my contribution, also in helping, women, comes from the fact that I've also been a beneficiary, of what women can do. And it's always good when we want to, if you like, do an analysis, if you like, of the contribution of women, to go back a little in history, you know, and when you go back, not too long, I mean, well, maybe 25, 30 years ago, etc., but not too long, you could hardly count, I mean, women in management in the maritime sector. I do recall that in those days, a lot of the meetings we attended, there was one lady from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Madame Ruth Karkari.
Okay.
I think she was the head of the human resource, you know, and she featured prominently in a lot of the meetings. Apparently, she was like alone. You know, there was nobody. And myself, you know, I've also been instrumental, you know, with all of the women associations like WISTA, UMESA, etc. They've invited me almost all the inauguration ceremonies. I have been there, you know. And I have found that women bring something different to the table, you know. Sometimes we say they are emotional, but with that emotion, they bring a little passion also to the work. And you mentioned the ladies I had in management. I mean, these were wonderful ladies. These were wonderful ladies. Their contribution at management workshops, you know, representing the organization at various levels, you know, they took the platform, you know, and at a very young and early age, they had the opportunity, and consequently, they were able to assert themselves. And they were able to demonstrate that, given the opportunity, you know, women can also play a significant role. You know, there are not only Ghana Shippers Authority, but there are a number of women I can mention. A number of them. You know, look, if I turn my eyes to the port, I think in your introduction, you mentioned ladies like Angela Ahin, you know, whom I have known for a very long time. She's climbed the ladder, you know, and today, a job that hitherto, you know, it was felt that it was a preserve of men. I do recall when Golden Jubilee Terminal, GJT, you know,
that particular GJT slot was occupied first by Madame Esther Jebidonko, she was the first female terminal manager.
She was the first female, but before her, it was an expatriate.
Okay.
Who we put there. I
remember.
Forgotten his name, but he was an expatriate, you know, who we put there. I mean, we considered it
Jenkins.
Jenkins.
I remember.
That's right, Jenkins.
You know, Jenkins or something. I remember
Jenkins. Yes. So he was the one we put there, and I do recall that, you know, it was felt that, look, this is the preserve of men. I mean, you're talking equipment, you're talking about movement of machines, etc. This is typical operations, you know, and today, you have a woman, you know, and as you said, Esther was there, and then now we have Angela there, you know.
And when you go to the transit yard, we have
Juliana Atifa there, you know, and then I remember also we have AC Soderberg, you know, also, and then we have boss. In marketing now. Esther is now in marketing, head of marketing,
general manager in charge of marketing.
Charge of marketing. So it tells you quite clearly that we have come some distance, you know. Well, if I leave the...
Doc, before you continue, I just want to acknowledge, now as we speak, we have Madam Sandra Opoku, who is Director of Port for Tema.
Yes, so I was coming to that. At the helm of Tema Port, you know?
Yes, we have Madam Esther Jebidonko, GM, Marketing and Corporate Affairs. We have Madam Mausi Sapati, who is GM, General Manager in charge of Finance.
I know Mausi.
We have Madam Florence Essel, who is Acting GM, Administration.
I know her.
We have Madam Philippa Amanda, who is Procurement Manager, Head Office GPHA.
Good.
And we have the Angela Tewia Ahing, and then Juliana Tefa, and a host of other women, you know, who are playing key roles, you know,
brilliant
for the development of our industry.
You know, and I'm happy you mentioned
Abina Sewa Opoku Fosu, who is also, you know, Marketing and Corporate Affairs, Marketing and Public Affairs Manager, Port of Tema, you know, and a host of them.
And I'm happy you mentioned all these names, you know, and my good friend Michael Luguje himself, he's also, you know, he believes also in the contribution of women, you know, at the level of PIMOCA and coming here in the port, or he believes very much that women have a contribution to play, you know, they have a role to play. You turn your eyes again, and then maybe you come to the Ghana Shippers Authority, today headed by Ms. Benonita Bismarck, you get me, a CEO, you know. You look at Ghana Maritime Authority, and immediately you can remember Angela Safo Kantanka, you can remember the head of legal, you know, Margaret Campbell, who is on the board, you know. So you would realize that we have come quite some distance, you know. We have other women who have played significant roles. And when we talk about women and their contribution in the maritime industry, we can never forget the first African woman, you know, Beatrice Aite, Captain Beatrice, formerly Beatrice Vomao, you know, who was the first to take command of a merchant ship in Africa, you know, and then she blazed the trail, and from there we had Captain Hazel, you know, we had Joanna Butchie, we had Hannah Agri of blessed memory, you know. All these made their contributions. Today we have a very brilliant lady in the Gulf of Guinea Maritime by name Dr. Abeta Segu. You know, Dr. Abeta Segu.
Based in Cape Coast,
also making very significant contributions, you know. And if you come also to the women organizations championed by the International Maritime Organization, you also have, we mentioned Sylvia Asana, she's president of Wimoka. You know, we have Jamila, president of WISTA. Nadine Swaite, she was for long president of WISTA, and then now vice president WISTA International. You know, so we have a lot of these ladies. If you come to GMA, as I mentioned, Stella Koba, you know, they are all playing enormous roles. You know, it was not like that before. So even though we still have a long way to go in terms of ensuring that we get a lot of women into the fold so that they can play their role effectively, I think we can say, I mean, with some pride, that we have covered some distance when it comes to women in managerial levels. You know, I heard in your introduction, you talked about the SHIU. You know, one of IMO's key things in trying to ensure that it is not just getting women into the industry, but getting them to be decision makers, you know, to come to the higher levels. And it can come only through training, you know, through motivation and recognition, you know. So these are the things that IMO is looking at, so that we don't only encourage women to come into the industry, but we make them come into the industry also as decision makers. You know. And to that extent, I think that we have come quite some distance.
Now, we have come quite some distance. We've covered quite some distance, and I recall you at the IMO level being the first black man to chair the legal committee of the IMO. And so you've seen it all. When you converge at the general assemblies, the special assemblies and all that, you see people from all over the world that partake, and most of them are also women. And so I would want you to look at what pertains elsewhere in the industry, the role that women play, and what we are doing here. Juxtapose that and tell us whether we are actually doing what we should be doing.
Yeah, I must say that if you want to take a global outlook, you look at BIMCO and its report on seafarers workforce, and then also on the maritime workforce, and it gives indication that we have just about 1.2% of women as part of the seafarers workforce in the world. Globally. And then when it comes to maritime, generally it's about 2%. You know, so if you take the global picture, it's clear that even globally, it's nothing to write home about. You get me? Because we need to do a lot more. And I'm happy that the International Maritime Organization, IMO, is championing this course. It's championing steps. Yes, both at the World Maritime University in Sweden and also at the IMO International Maritime Law Institute in Malta. In fact, at the IMO International Maritime Law Institute in Malta, 50% of the available spaces are reserved for women. You know, 50% reserved for women. So when there are fellowships, you know, women always have the opportunity. And I believe that it is always important to put in place these quotas, because we certainly will have women who are competent, who are capable, and also women who we would need to train in this regard. So the global picture does not look too good in terms of numbers.
Yes.
However, if you were to look back again some 20, 30 years ago, then you would realize the 1.2%, the 2% in the maritime generally is a significant improvement over what it has been some 20, 30 years ago. When you come to the seafaring tradition itself, it's always been felt that this is a job for men. But today, a lot of women, and I think I saw some cadets,
Yes.
and a lot of women have taken to merchant shipping, and they are on vessels all over the world. I mean, we'll be talking about Ukraine, and I will tell you that amongst the people who are stranded, in the ports in Ukraine are also women, who are on board ships, So, indeed, when you look globally, but what I can say, maybe we are not doing a lot of, as far as Ghana is concerned, is to widen the purview. We tend, when we talk about maritime, to focus only on the blue, that is the sea.
The blue economy.
The ancillaries of the blue economy, we don't divert our attention to those areas.
Right.
It's only in recent times that, for example, in the oil and gas field, women have taken up issues of welding, etc., and the rest. But all of them come as part of the domain. That maritime domain is not restricted only to the coastal zone or to the high seas, as it were. But also, the things that link up on land, there are also areas in which ladies can venture. We talk about ship repair, we talk about outboard motor repair, we are talking a lot about STEM these days.
Yes.
And this is one area that women can go into. And consequently, in the engineering area of the sea, they can play a very significant role. So there is a lot that we need to do. If you go to places like the Philippines, who have taken it upon themselves that indeed the seafaring tradition is part and parcel of them. They are training a lot of women in these areas, and those are repatriating a lot of funds for their economies. And that is something that we can also pick up in these areas. If you go to IMO, today as I speak, the chairperson of the legal committee is a lady from Canada. For several years, there has never been a lady, if you like, as chairperson of the legal committee of the International Maritime Organization.
Did you hand over to her or somebody took over?
No, I handed over to a man, then later on.
The man handed over to this particular woman.
Yes. So you can see quite clearly that there is, if you like, conscious effort. And that consciousness, that awareness seem to be a little lacking in our domain, not only in Ghana, but in West and Central Africa generally. And that is why I support, these women groups, women organizations that are coming and looking at things from various perspectives and ensuring that there is enough training to bring women on board.
All right, so that's going to be my next question, because you mentioned earlier in your submission that you have invitations from these women organizations, WISTA and the likes, and you've delivered papers, lectures, at international conferences where you've been invited by these women. When you attend these conferences, do you see a genuine clamor, a genuine concern, a genuine effort by these women to bring the younger ones on board?
Yes,
to engender that interest in the industry?
Yeah. I think they do well, but the talk is a lot, and sometimes it's also good to go beyond the talk. And it also requires support coming from us, as the other gender. Look, very soon, there will be elections for the Secretary Generalship of the International Maritime Organization. I am one of the crusaders, who believe that, look, it's time.
For Africa?
For Africa and for a woman, for that matter, to be Secretary General. And we want to champion that cause. And then let the world realize that it's not lip service. It's not about talking gender. It's not about gender mainstreaming in the air. It's about the realities on the ground. And therefore, when it comes to this, let us give the opportunity to women. In Nigeria, I mean, they have done very well. I mean, over the period, you know, in the Port Authority, you know, in Nimasa, in other places, women are playing significant roles at very high levels, and even in the private sector, you know. I forgot to mention someone like Josephine Nkrumah, you know, for example, who now is going to ECOWAS.
Right.
You know, so it is important that there is some awareness, there is some consciousness, there is something that we put in place, a plan, a program, having targets to say by this time, maybe in the next 10 years, this is where we want to get to. Unfortunately, those benchmarks we have not put in place. You know, so there are no targets as we speak. We virtually are doing Martime. You know, so
what's that?
I'll try and see.
Martime, okay.
You know, so we are doing so we are trying, we are saying it, etc. But it needs a plan. It needs a program. It needs something that we are conscious of, and therefore put a strategy in place for the realization of that objective.
Right.
You know, if we leave it like that, well, we may get a few here, a few there, a few doing this, but at the end of the day, without that plan, without that strategy, we would not be able to achieve the levels of women inclusion that we want to. Look, I've been talking about the blue economy to a group recently, and I have mentioned to them that when you look at the strategic development goals, the SDGs, you know, goal 14 and also goal 5. Goal 5 deals with gender, and then goal 14 deals with maritime. You know, and it's important to realize that look at fishing and look at the role women play in fishing. You get me? I'm happy, for example, that now we have a minister of fisheries who's a woman. You know, get me? And that all helps the cause.
Sure.
But we need to put programs in place that harness the potential of the ordinary folk.
Right.
The ordinary women, they have a lot of role to play, a lot to offer. A lot to offer in terms of the alleviation of poverty. You know, so if we want really to alleviate poverty, can cast your eyes on the coastline all over, and you will see predominantly women are involved in the marketing, in the processing of fish. But this is the area where poverty is endemic. You know, people are largely poor along the entire coastal belt. What mechanisms do we put in place such that we will harness the potential of women, such that we will support women, you know, where we want to do maybe micro finance arrangements, you know, for them, marketing arrangements, packaging arrangements, trying to do some export orientation for them, so that we move from where we are now to next levels, which would truly, I emphasize the word truly, empower women, which would truly empower women. You know, so when we celebrate the International Year of the Woman, for me, it should not be about the talk. It should now move beyond the realm of talk. It should go to planning. It should go to strategy. It should go to key objectives. It should go to targets, time frames. When do we want to realize this particular objective? So that we can say, come 2030, you know, in 8 years' time, or 2032, in 10 years' time, this is what we want to see. You get me? And I believe once we put in place the appropriate structures, we'll get there.
All right, so we'll be zooming into our next topic pretty shortly. But my last question for you on this particular subject is, you have worked with women at the management level when you were at the Shippers Authority. You've worked with them, you know, at the global stage and all that. I just want to find out from you whether there are some challenges that you pick from them that inhibits their you know, operations at the high level.
You know, I can't pinpoint, you know, anything that, because much as you would find fault with women, you find fault with men. You know, one way or the other. Forget about the biological clock and all of the things that happen to do with it. By the challenges that you have with men, you also have with women. I mean, I think I heard someone say that once they are dedicated, once they know what they want to achieve, once they know that they have a role to play. And it is important. You know, one thing I tried to do while I was at Shippers to create the platform, you know, to make them feel bold in what they do. Look, when we held judges seminars, for example, sometimes the forum can be intimidating. You know, when you think of the fact that there are all the superior court judges, you know, present in the forum, and they call you to come and stand in front and maybe introduce a chairman or do something, you know. But I push them, you know, and gradually you could realize that they build their confidence, and they just take the platform, they take the forum anywhere, you know, not only locally but internationally, and they have done that very well. So as far as I'm concerned, men have faults, women have faults. Whatever it is we who must try as much as possible to ensure that we create a path for them that enables them realize their potential.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia. He is a maritime law consultant and a legal practitioner at Alliance Partners here in Accra. Indeed, he's the immediate past Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority. We've been discussing, the contribution of women to Ghana's maritime industry. We are zooming into our next topic, which has to do with the impact of the war in Russia and Ukraine on the global supply chain. And so, Doc, let me come to you. We witnessed COVID. And till date, we are still reeling under the effects, the negative effects of COVID. We have, freight rates, ballooning, skyrocketing. I don't know whether we've been able to put that under control or under check. Now we have Ukraine, we have Russia, the war. What are we likely to witness?
I must say that if you ask me, maybe if I were to use one-word descriptions, the impact, if you like, is massive. I can also say it portends catastrophe. And the impact has not yet been felt. What we are seeing is only the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
And if this war continues and the sanctions continue in this same vein, the world economy and the global supply chain is going to face a predicament of exponential proportions. It's important first to look at the fact that yes, you fight a war, there are battles, but the battles are confined. However, the effects of the battles and the war are not confined. They spill over, to wider dimensions than you even may have anticipated. Look, it's taken a long time for Russia to so-called military operation. It's taking because of the fact that they have been aware. And the Western world has also been aware that look, if this war takes place, it will have serious economic repercussions. And indeed, we're beginning to see that.
Right.
So, in short, I would say that this does not portend good. And the little we are seeing now in terms of the stifling of global supply chains, what we are seeing with respect to, look at the price of oil. We were around 71 to 75. All of a sudden, we went to around $139 a barrel. You get me? And the impact is significant. It has affected almost every sphere of life. And if you take energy and energy supplies, if you take Europe, which relies on Russia for about 40% of its gas supplies, obviously, this is bound to have a telling effect on their economies. And we here, we are not removed from that. But even though it seems to be far away, the repercussions are that, maybe if I should go into a little detail, if you take Ukraine, Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, I don't know whether we have a map or something, but if you take Russia, Belarus, Ukraine.
I think that's what you were looking for.
Virtually,
it's on the screen, sure.
They are virtually the breadbasket, if you like, of Europe.
Right.
They have a lot of plains, they do a lot of grains, a lot of corn, wheat, And it's important when we are looking at this from the maritime dimension and looking at global supply chains to realize that A lot of bulk vessels are coming in. They are taking products from these places in the Black Sea and the Azov,
right?
And taking them to places all over the world. With what is happening now, trade is stifled.
Right.
Vessels which already have gone into the port are stuck. Some of them are not able to leave the port at the moment. The price of oil has gone up. The price of commodities have gone up. The price of gas has gone up in Europe. And this has had a telling effect on poor countries. A lot of the countries that you see are not too, if you like, well-to-do, and they are coming out of poverty, out of COVID. Just at a time when they are coming out of COVID and trying to get the supply chains working again, it's when this war has come. And consequently, if you take Russia and the Ukraine, for example, they supply about 30%, of the world's wheat requirements.
Right. Wheat. Yes.
Wheat requirements.
Yes.
Ukraine is about the 4th largest exporter of corn, and it's about the 5th largest exporter of wheat. So it's quite clear that when it comes to grains and things like that, some of which are used, like sunflower seed, for example, Russia and Ukraine alone, they do almost 70% of the one sunflower seed, and that is used for the oils and things, the cooking oils, etc., which we get. So sometimes you think you are far away, and therefore the impact is not on you, but you would realize that now a lot of the imports, processed foods, etc., that are coming to us are going to be expensive, because remember, fuel price has gone up, and because fuel price has gone, bunkers have gone up. You mentioned already that freight rates have gone high as a result of COVID in the transportation of empties. But just as we're trying to stabilize the freight rates, this has happened. Freight rates have started going through the roof, with what is happening. So, in fact, it's something we all should pray is not protracted.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, so there's this trend where some countries are banning Russian vessels from, coming to their ports, entering their ports. What will be the effect of this particular, trend?
Yeah,
if it is not checked.
That is serious. I mean, some of them are for brand protection, etc., like the big players, Maersk Line, MSC, etc., and one, banning their vessels from going to these places for a number of reasons. First, security. You have to realize that these are merchant vessels, these are commercial vessels. They want to trade, so they will not go into a port where they cannot come out. You get me? So that is the first thing. You are not too sure. You go, you will not come out. They have a brand to protect, and a lot of them belong to the Western Alliance. Therefore, to that extent, they want to protect their brands as against Russia.
Right.
Then also, remember that even though there is coverage, for war, vessels that enter into war zones, the premiums have gone high.
Right.
Already the premiums have gone high. And so, if you are a vessel that moves into these areas, you need to be worried.
Absolutely.
At the same time, in shipping, we have what we call the OBO, oil bulk oil.
Okay.
Oil bulk oil.
OBO.
OBO.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes these very big bulkers, they may take grain from one place to another, discharge the grain, pick another product, you get me, and then go to another port.
Right.
So the tramp vessels, for example, are moving from port to port. Now, if you were to go to Ukraine, and you would not be able to get the grain, you get me, because you sent ore, for example, there, and you did not get grain to go back. It means that you go back in ballast, and that will not be profitable.
Absolutely.
So all of these play in the equation, and you want to be sure that, one, you are well covered, you have analyzed the risk, you are sure that your seafarers are protected before you can enter into a zone like this.
Right.
And that is why you will find out that some shipping lines have asked, as I speak, I mean, there are over 140 vessels that are trapped in the Black Sea area.
140?
About 140 vessels.
Transporting cargo.
Transporting cargo. I'm talking commercial vessels. And remember also that there are sea mines as a result of the war.
Right.
Sea mines have been planted. You know, so IMO is calling, for example, for blue safe corridors.
Yes.
You know, so that ships can use these blue safe corridors.
Sure.
In the heat of the war, you also need supplies.
Yeah.
Humanitarian supplies, food, etc. need to come to these places. And with what is happening, it's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, because humanitarian supplies are not able to go through. And that is why the IMO Council met on the 10th and 11th of March. Today is 13th, so I think just about 2 days ago. 2 days ago, yeah, they had an emergency meeting which they considered a number of firstly, they condemned the action of Russia, and then they also looked at a number of factors. Seafarers are regarded as the key players in the industry, and therefore that key player status, need to be given to seafarers, their protection. There have been a few, if you like, missiles that have fallen on commercial vessels, in the Azov and then also in the Black Sea, injuring seafarers, and IMO is indeed very concerned, about this and asking that the communication lines should be open so that seafarers can speak to their families, the blue safe zones should be open so that vessels which can leave should leave. Those which are in areas where they feel sea mines might be, they should be given opportunity to have safe passage. And it has called upon Ukraine and the IMO members to give support to Ukraine so that Ukraine can exercise its port state control, flag state control, coastal state control measures. But reading this from IMO, I'm asking, at this stage, how does Ukraine, implement these things? Because it's things that you will be able to, if you like, implement in peacetime. In wartime, it's a little difficult, especially as missiles are flying over. So it's a very grave situation. As I said, we hope and pray that it's not protracted. If it becomes protracted, and again, the dimension of this particular war is a little different because, sometimes when these things happen, others cash in.
Yes.
And therefore, there is trading relations, etc. People take a risk and still do business.
And these are the people that will continue to pray that this thing, lingers on for a while.
Yeah, it gets on for a while because then they make more profits, etc. But this time around, it looks like a number of countries such as Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, etc. All of them, they have embargoes against Russia.
Right.
And Russia also is a big player. You'll be amazed at the level of trade. Over $260 billion of trade yearly between Russia and America. You get me? We don't get to hear of it, but they are trading because it's commerce, it's business. Today, the payment platforms are down. Russia says it will pay everybody in ruble. But who wants ruble?
Is that the Russian currency?
The Russian currency.
Okay.
But who wants rubles? You get me? So if you can't get the dollar, you can't get the euro, which are the dominant, if you like, currencies.
These are as a result of the sanctions.
As a result of sanctions, and therefore, trading is always between partners. So if they can't trade, then you have to look ahead and see what is likely to happen to international trade generally. And therefore, the global supply chains we talk about are likely to be affected. Increased prices, we cannot run away from that fact. Especially because oil is involved, because gas is involved. And if you take away oil and gas, as I've said, these three countries I mentioned, Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Belarus in recent times, because Russia wanted to diversify its economy from oil and gas, and then oil and then mining, and then move to, if you like, food, etc. So it's quite clear that with what is happening now, we are likely to face food shortages. We are likely to have more increased prices. And as I said, this is not only for Europe. A lot of African countries will still shore up our supplies from these bread baskets. So we all pray that this would come to an end as quickly as possible. So that this escalation in prices would not continue to occur.
Okay. All right. So the International Chamber of Shipping is predicting that global supply chain issues will be further exacerbated or compounded with the lack of Ukrainian and Russian seafarers. Is this a position you share?
Yes, I do. I do because, if you take the Philippines, which is a dominant player when it comes to seafaring, then you also have Ukraine, you have Russians, you have Chinese, These are, if you like, the dominant players as far as the seafaring tradition is concerned. And with what is happening, it's quite clear, apart from people who have taken shore leave and are not able to get back on the vessels, even the Ukrainians themselves, because it's their tradition, and they go into seafaring. The Russians, they are into seafaring. Certainly, this is going to affect seafaring going forward. We have not come completely clear out of the pandemic situation where a lot of seafarers were trapped. Today in China, they are doing lockdowns still. You get me? So it's quite clear that we are not completely out of the woods with COVID. And this has come. Consequently, it's going to have an impact. I told you, as I speak, over 1,000 seafarers are trapped in the Black Sea and Azov area. So it's important to realize that you cannot now do change of seafarers, because some must go on board, others must take their leave, etc. Already, you have about 1,000 who are trapped, and this is going to affect the number of shipping lines. And I agree with what the International Chamber of Shipping says with respect to Ukraine and Russia in particular. Yes, because apart from these two, it's the Philippines, which is very dominant.
All right. I'll come back. When we come back, I would want to find out from you, there are issues of crew safety, issue of high insurance premiums and all that in sending vessels to Ukraine and Russia and all that, and what that means or that portends for goods and services in terms of shipment. This is Iron Pod here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we are discussing the impact of the war in Ukraine and Russia on the global supply chain. And my guest in the studios is Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia, a maritime law consultant and private legal practitioner at Alliance Africa here in Ghana. Indeed, he is also the immediate past chief executive of the Ghana Shippers Authority. We'll be back right after this break. Please stay with us.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water. Or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects, and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
All right, so you're welcome back. With me in the studios is still Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia, maritime law consultant and private legal practitioner, alliance partners here in Accra, immediate past chief executive, Ghana Shippers Authority as subject. Our topic we're discussing tonight is the impact of the Ukraine-Russia war on the global supply chain. I've been told by my producers that I can activate the phone lines for you to call in, and the number to dial is 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Doc, before we went on the break, I said I would find out from you, there are issues of crew security, the issue of high insurance premiums in sending vessels to Ukraine and Russia and all that, and what that portends for, goods and services, in terms of shipment.
Yeah. I said something very about the food security, because I told you that Ukraine itself is not a particularly very rich country, you get me? Even though when it comes to, production, in recent times, it's done very well for itself, So when it comes to food security, because they play a significant role when it comes to the basic things. I mentioned sunflower seed, corn, mentioned wheat, they also do some ore, they send some ore and things to various places. So when it comes to food, there is no doubt at all. I told you that between themselves and Russia alone, they do about 30%, of the world's requirement of wheat. So it's very clear that there would be an impact as far as food is concerned. Europe relies a lot on these things and turns them into finished products. Right. So very soon you'll find out that their factories are having no supplies of these things, which they will turn into other products. Wheat is used for bread, it's used for biscuits, for cakes, for etc. So you begin to see that impact. Immediately, there may be some stocks which are being used in Europe, but within a short time, if this becomes protracted, we will see that happening. Then you talked about insurance. A number of vessels have war risk insurance. However, you need to anticipate the nature of the war you are talking about. I believe that it is not of this magnitude. And consequently, Lloyd's, for example, if you like, the largest insurance company in the world that syndicates insurance, Lloyd's has warned that premiums, are going to go up. And already for P&I clubs, protection and indemnity clubs, premiums have risen, And if that continues, then it would mean that even though you have a war risk cover, and you may like to take a risk and go, you wouldn't go at all because the premiums are now becoming unbearable. And that is what we are likely to see in the next couple of months if this continues.
Right. Okay, so there are also issues of seafarers not able to access their salaries or pay, and whether we can possibly create safe corridors or routes for vessels to maneuver. And you mentioned about 140 vessels that are stuck along this area, and whether we can be able to establish these safe routes, for easy passage.
Yes, in fact, IMO has called for that. You know, and then you know, one challenging thing is also the sanctions. You know, if there were no sanctions in the midst of all of this, transfer of monies, etc., could take place. You know, in Russia, for example, I mean, we have heard of people going and emptying the ATMs. You know, the automatic teller machines. You know, so you can tell quite clearly that seafarers who maybe in the ports in Russia or maybe in the ports in Ukraine, who ordinarily would have come ashore and maybe go to an ATM, take some money, do some business, they are unable to do so. So IMO has called for support in this regard so that humanitarian aid could go to these seafarers. And I mentioned earlier on that also they should be given opportunity to have free communication with their families, you know, and those who have been injured as a result of missiles hitting their vessels, they should create a blue safe corridor, you know, for these vessels to move out. You know, so in effect, it is not easy, as I said, once the war is still ongoing. But IMO continues to canvass that member states, especially those member states who are in the vicinity, you know, the extent to which they can give support and help to Ukraine. IMO has called for that.
When they say a vessel or ship has been hit by munition, what does that mean?
Missiles, you know, there are two forms. One is missiles either intended for those vessels or mistakenly they have gone to hit those vessels. There have been a few deaths reported of Indian seafarers, you know, who now, and I read, very pathetic, that the family is calling for the body to be brought back, you know, to India. Their vessel at the moment is disabled, you know, and they will have to take some measures. Otherwise, the vessel itself may take in water and the vessel may sink, you know. So that is one thing which we need to bear in mind. At the same time, apart from the missiles which are coming, you know, this Black Sea and the Azov area has become a war zone. Because it's become a war zone, sea mines have also been placed in certain areas. You know, remember that one of the cardinal reasons, the geopolitics of it, is about the Black Sea. Russia has annexed Crimea because of the Black Sea. Because when the USSR was there, United Soviet Socialist Republics, their fleet, naval fleet, were in the Black Sea area. You know, now, if Ukraine turns towards NATO, then it means that the West may bring its naval fleet into the Black Sea. And that is one of the causes of this war. If you were to look back, that is one of the apprehensions of Russia. You know, so the Black Sea plays a critical role in all of this because Russia would not like to let go of the Black Sea. You know, it's difficult to create runways or airports, you know, all of a sudden. But when you have ships, you know, you can create runways on ships. You get me? So it's important to realize the value of this as far as the powers are concerned. So the powers which can put their aircraft carriers, you know, into these areas, for them, it matters a lot if they are not able to have that space to be able to put their aircraft carriers in these places. And because it's become a war zone, as I said, there are also sea mines apart from the missiles, and therefore commercial vessels are at risk. You know, and if they go over these mines, then the tendency is that there is catastrophe and they may sink. You know, so these are challenges that attend to this war.
All right, these are troubling times, very turbulent times for shipping globally. And like you mentioned, the munitions, you are in a vessel, you are going, you don't know where this one is coming from, and it hits you, you lose crew, you lose, you know, members on board and all that. And this is not a time to say you are taking stock of who is doing what or who is guilty, who is, culpable. But don't you think that it would be imperative for us to take stock of all these things so that at the end of the day, we are able to bring people to book? so that the appropriate compensation, perhaps, can be paid. I know you mentioned the IMO is doing a lot to ameliorate the situation, but I think that there should be something that can be done.
Yeah, I think on the sidelines they are talking, but sometimes in these talks, they want to talk from a position of strength. So it means the bombardments must go on, to a point where they believe that they have caused sufficient damage, such as to put them, if you like, in the riding seat, and yes, it's important that we try and find out why these things are happening. But I think that it is known. Those who are students of the geopolitics of Eastern Europe, they can take you back, to the Soviet Union, the breakup of the Soviet Union, USSR as a superpower, and the Cold War and what has happened subsequently, So it's important to realize all of this. Sometimes one wonders, because if you look at the map I showed to you,
Doc, you come to the map, but let's go to the phone lines and welcome Bernard Osu. He's calling us all the way from the Ahafo region. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. And good evening to Mr. Kofi Mbia.
Dr. Mbia, yes.
Yes, I'm very impressed about the way he's explaining certain things to us. I will. Can I go ahead?
Please flow, yes.
Yes, I want to find out the reasons why we keep on having an astronomical cost of importing cars into Ghana. Since knowing him to be former chief executive of Ghana Shepherds Council, is there no any way that some of this expensive cost of importing cars can be reduced, or can they do something about it?
All right.
Yes. I come from a
All right. Thank you very much indeed. I think this particular question lies in the domain of customs, not Dr. Mbia. But he's asking because you're a former CEO of Ghana Shippers Authority. He thinks that I don't know.
We don't produce cars, here, and we import them, and for a number of reasons, government must take tax on these, and sometimes it's not that the duties themselves are high, as it were, but the exchange rate has been a very important factor in all of this. If you look back just a couple of months ago, a vessel which would have attracted maybe about 40 to 45 thousand Ghana cedis, today will attract almost about 60,000 Ghana cedis, by way of duties. So I agree with him. Indeed, it is going up, but it's all because of the exchange rate.
Right. Okay. You're making a point. If you can conclude that, and then I would come and take some messages. And
on which one? I can't remember. What was I saying?
You are making reference to the map that we showed here.
Yes. And I was saying that if you look at that map, and you look around it, the blue areas you see there, those blue areas, or you see just around Ukraine, apart from Belarus, which is pro-Russia, almost all the rest are NATO.
Right.
You get me? So Russia is now apprehensive that, look, if Ukraine should also go the way of NATO, then it means that it is exposed, as it were. And I've asked you to look down, and you will find there that
and I understand the distance between Russia and Ukraine is like 15 miles or so.
You can see they share a common border. This Moscow, you can see Moscow not too far away. And you can also see down there the Black Sea. And I'm saying that the Black Sea is critical, it's strategic, as it were, for all of these countries over there, and for the superpowers, it is strategic, and that is why it is important, that and Russia would not just back down.
Right. All right, so let's take a few messages. This one is from John in Takoradi. He says, from an agricultural perspective, I think if the conflict is prolonged, it could threaten the summer wheat harvest, which flows into bread, pasta, and packaged food for vast numbers of people, especially in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East.
Exactly what I was saying.
Right. This one, the Center for International Maritime Affairs, that's CIMA Ghana, outlines 3 approaches to reducing the impasse of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict to a more appreciable level. One, supply chain input diversification. There are undoubted inefficiencies. There are undoubted efficiencies associated with sourcing from a single supplier, that's sole source supplier, such as economies of scale, cost savings based on volumes, and streamlining logistics. However, a sole source supplier renders an economy supply chain more sensitive to interruption. To fairly assess the source of its supply chain, the manufacturer should look at the lower layers of its supply chain. 2, lock in transportation and shipping rates to the extent possible. Given the volatile fluctuations in oil pricing, which will have impact on all forms of transportation, lock in transportation and shipping rates as soon as possible. Many companies are partnering with third-party logistics providers in order to defray some of the increasing volatility across labor, warehousing, transportation, and other logistics. And 3, reassessing contract rights. For customer and supplier relationships that could be impacted, it is once again time to get out of those contracts to see A, whether the contracts contain a force majeure provision, B, whether the force majeure provisions cover events such as war, embargoes, etc., and C, assess whether the force majeure clauses provide termination rights and what the associated notice requirements are. Finally, even if there is no force majeure provision in the applicable contract, the parties may have certain rights to suspend performance under the doctrine of commercial impracticability depending upon the particular circumstances. I don't know whether whether you agree with the recommendations by CIMAG.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think
Albert Fiatri and his team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to a large measure, but the point is that he mentioned, for example, diversification as one of the issues. You have to realize that there are things you can do in the short term. There are things you cannot do in the short term. There are things that can happen only from medium to long term.
Yes.
So, firstly, you must have measures that will take care of the short term. We're talking about human lives. We are talking about livelihoods.
Yes.
People losing livelihoods.
Yes.
And therefore, the short term becomes important. And then some of the measures they've mentioned can be for medium to long term. Look, if you take, for example...
Doc, please hold that. Let's welcome Desmond from Nungwa onto the show and then we'll continue. We'll wrap up pretty shortly. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Desmond.
Yeah, please, I just want to know a contribution.
Can you speak up a bit, please, Desmond?
Please, I want to know a contribution of Ghana in terms of seafaring to the global economy.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, like I want to know the role that Ghana play in terms of seafaring.
In terms of
seafarers, like
seafarers.
In terms of producing seafarers.
Okay.
To a global world.
Okay. All right. Is that all?
That is all, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Desmond from Nungwa. Thank you very much indeed. How are we faring as a country in terms of...
Clear that one.
Okay, sure.
The Ghana Maritime Authority and the Regional Maritime University, they are very instrumental when it comes to seafaring. And they give certificates of competency to our seafarers who generally are accepted the world over. I mean, recently their certificates have been recognized, etc. So we are playing a role as far as producing seafarers and then sending them out is concerned. There are sometimes challenges with the training. Sometimes you need practical orientation, what we call sea time. And we don't have vessels of our own that the people we have trained will use for sea time experience. So those are challenges, but I'm sure efforts are underway to address these challenges.
Right.
Before then, I was talking about the Tema and then and I mentioned that some of them are good, as he said, well, fine. You can talk also about force majeure, you can look at the contracts, etc. But remember that, as I mentioned, there are short term, there are medium and long term. You cannot switch over immediately.
Right.
Europe, as I said, relies on Russian gas, up to about 40% of its requirements.
Right.
It cannot switch over immediately. The pipes are there, they are coming, they are providing heating, they are providing for industry, etc. So you can't switch over immediately.
Right.
Right now, the thought has come that, look, there is over-dependency on Russian gas. So should Europe be moving towards nuclear? Should Europe be moving towards coal for its energy needs? Even though we have all said climate change, let's move away from coal. You know, because of this geopolitics, it's now become a thing that Europe is considering. That they would have wished that, yes, cleaner energies, nuclear, they'll go to wind energy, electric energy, etc., the renewables. But in the medium term, what can they do to switch and stop the over-dependence on Russian gas? You know, so these are challenges. The recommendations are worthy, you know, but we need always to look at those recommendations in terms of what is doable now, what is doable in the medium term, and what is doable in the long term. In the long term, some of these things in terms of diversification can be achieved. But in the short term, you can't easily diversify. And that is why, for a long time, if you realize, Europe was feet dragging because it was aware that it relies a lot on Russia for its gas needs. And consequently, if there was a blockade for the gas that comes to Europe, Europeans were going to suffer for it. And indeed, they are suffering as we speak because gas prices have gone up.
All right. This one says, hi, great interview and great delivery from Doctor. My concern is about the welfare of the seafarers trapped in the Black Sea. Whose responsibility is that to get them out, to reunite them with their families?
Yes. First, we must talk about the companies themselves, which own the ships and which, if you like, have engaged the seafarers. Then the International Maritime Organization. Then we have private associations, bodies like Seafarers Rights International. You know, we have this body of seafarers. The name has just escaped me, but all of them are there, which have roles to play in ensuring that proper provision is made for the seafarers in this era of predicament. And then also, as I said, IMO using diplomatic channels and getting its member states, you know, to provide support to Ukraine and also, therefore, to ensure that these safe passages are created. So it does not lie on only one body. The IMO has a role to play. The seafarer organizations have a role to play. The insurance companies also have a role to play. And so are the ship owners themselves, who have engaged or contracted these seafarers. You know, their administrations themselves, they are also involved. For example, if there were Ghanaian seafarers, it behoves on us, you know, to begin to look at the interest of our Ghanaian seafarers and how we can, if you like, protect their interest in this predicament.
Okay, so that's how we draw the curtain tonight on Eye on Port here on Metropolitan Television. With me in the studios has been Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia, a maritime law consultant and a private legal practitioner at Alliance Partners here in Accra. He's the immediate past chief executive of the Ghana Shippers Authority. Tonight we've been discussing two topics. One, the contribution of women to Ghana's maritime industry, and this topic was selected on the heels of last Wednesday's celebration of International Women's Day. And the second topic, which we just concluded, is the impact of the war between Ukraine and Russia on the global supply chain. We'd like to say a very big thanks to Dr. Mbia for obliging us the first time this year, your appearance on the show. We're grateful to you, sir. We know we can always call on you. We also say thanks to our sponsors, the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goyle Company Limited, Serene Insurance, and the Ghana Link Network Services, the operators of the Integrated Customs Management System at the ports. The show is also powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. My name is Kennedy Mona. Remember, you can also make a date on Wednesday and watch the abridged version of the show on Ghana Television at 8:30 p.m. We thank you so much and wish you a very super week ahead. Enjoy the rest of the shows on this network.
Are you tired as a consumer in Ghana when it comes to issues that confront you as a consumer? Worry no more. Kofi Capito, I'm here to give